on, two. Welcome to Wayne State University. I'm here with several of our Wayne State Jazz Studies students, Mike Karloff on piano, Sam Trachuk on bass, and Nathaniel Wynn on the drums. We're here today to talk about an interesting subject. Primarily, we're going to try to provide some thoughts and tools to band directors and teachers who are dealing with beginning improvisers. Very often, as I listen to middle school and high school bands, I hear three different kinds of players. We have players that have found the path to jazz improvisation, and they know what they have to do, and they're working hard to try to do it, and they have good guidance. I often hear players that are very exuberant and confident about their playing, but they lack the tools or the direction, so they play a lot of funny notes and funny rhythms, and they do it with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy, but it tends to lead to some non-musical effects. And then there's a third category of player, which is the young player that's just terrified of jazz improvisation altogether. They don't understand it, they don't know what to do first, they don't know what they're trying to accomplish, so they end up not playing many solos at all. The idea today is to offer some tools to students and to teachers that will help students develop confidence in their beginning improvisational attempts, and to allow the teacher to help sculpt goals so that students know that they've achieved musical and artistic success. First, let's talk about the use of rhythm. Rhythm is something that every child knows. Even little babies learn to clap their hands and sing with their parents. There's an innate sense of rhythm in who we are as people. So it's not something that requires a large learning curve, and it's a great point of entrance for improvisation. It strips away the need for students to understand all the harmony and chordal elements that are going on behind the improvisation, and gets them to focus on just playing some good things in good time. In my professional experience, I've heard some really bad notes played with good time, received really well, and ultimately create a good musical and artistic statement because the feel is there. So if we can encourage students to work with rhythm and not have them worrying about what notes to play or what chords they're playing, I think we'll be in good shape. But how to do this without having the student just go crazy and play a lot of bad stuff in a solo? Well, one thing the band director can do is identify a single note to start with in an improvisational section for a student. Let's say we're going to work with a common set of chord changes called I got rhythm changes, that the basis of a lot of bebop and post-bop material. We're going to do this tune in the tonality of B flat, and I am just going to improvise on the tonic throughout the entire 16-bar section, but using rhythm and exploring rhythm with a single note. So you tell the student, if you're a tenor player, you're going to take the note C. If it's an alto player, you'll take the note G, and create a rhythmic improvised solo. And you'll be surprised how effective and musically productive it can be. I'll give you an example. B flat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Idea, 16 bars, and we get into some riffing, and we start encouraging the students to think about syncopation and think about starting and ending their ideas on the offbeats. Simple exercises like that, but limit them to just one note. Of course, I was using some octave displacement and jumping down and jumping up to create some other effects. And if the student knows some special effects on their instrument, like alternate fingerings or double tonguing or growling, they can bring those effects in to have more of an emotional impact. And it doesn't take a lot of knowledge of harmony to pull it off. And it gets them thinking about just that element of rhythm. We're going to do that again, and this time I'm going to throw in a few more special effects that, again, students may explore on their own or have when they come to the table to begin with. Here we go again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Solo, especially in front of a big band, that would go far. A lot of the great jazz soloists, some of their most inspired solos, are the work of their rhythmic use of a single note. So let's take it a step further. Let's say your student is at a point where they do understand to some degree that they're playing on tunes, that these jazz arrangements are all based on songs. If you give them the melody, if they have the melody in the big band chart, or if you write it out for them, their improvisation can simply be a rhythmic interpretation of the melody. When we first started this video, we were jamming on a tune called Just Friends, a very common jazz tune. And what I'm going to do is take the melody of that tune. Let me play it for you the way it would appear on a piece of sheet music first, so you hear rhythmically what a student would read off a piece of paper if they were to just find this tune in a real book or on a piece of piano sheet music. Just Friends. 1, 2, 1, 2, straightforward, and in the name of simple publishing, oftentimes tunes are squared off that way to have notes beginning on downbeats in the beginning of each measure. So we encourage the students to do something very simple. Play the melody and get them to exaggerate starting their phrases or the pieces of the melody on the ands or ending them on the ands. This will give the melody an innate sense of swing. It allows them to improvise freely with rhythm in reference to a melody that they have to memorize. So they get an opportunity to create something, again, that's musically appropriate, but that doesn't require a great deal of skill or 2 years of study to understand the principles before they begin to improvise, which is a skill into itself. Here's that same melody now with some rhythmic syncopation and some rhythmic deviation from the original published version. 1, 2, 1, 2. Improvised setting can be set up. You know, the idea of improvisation and working with rhythm is really a distillation of the concept of figuring out what improvisation is. It's not just the collection of tools and techniques and harmony and melody and intricate understandings of polyrhythms. Improvisation is something we do in our everyday lives. For instance, in a phone conversation, you typically don't know who's on the other line. So when you pick up the phone and you begin a conversation, one idea leads to the next. One thought leads to the next. This is a concept of improvisation, something we're all familiar with in our lives. The idea here is to keep the students from being burdened with all the vocabulary of music and allow them to improvise and explore that part of their mind and that concept of improvisation with their instrument in their hand in the simplest possible setting. They still have musical success and they're able to explore rhythm, one of the most important elements of jazz improvisation.